Do you know what? I love that new music that we've got right at the start. It's just awesome. It's got that little rocky vibe that I like to it. But anyway, as normal, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever the hell you might be listening to this. Welcome back to the Lower League Looks National League podcast. I should be able to say Lower League Look these days. I've been doing it for 2 years now, so I don't know how I'm still getting mixed up with my words. I'm back. Aaron's back. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. I feel like these Mondays roll around very, very quickly, don't they? I mean, I'm not complaining because I get to spend time with my favourite Scottish person, but it does feel like we're pumping these out a bit now. I think it's probably because I do 2 a week now with the preview show as well. But it feels good. It feels good. I'm ready to dissect.
You've got a busy schedule with this now, so you've got busier, and I've just not got as busy because you're doing the preview pod with Lauren. Which, do you know what? It was great. Well done to you guys. I absolutely loved listening to it. Editing, not so much because you just forgot to put an ad break in, but we've covered that. You guys won't do that again.
we just like to make you earn your corn, Grant. That's all we like to do.
But you know what? Kudos to you. You put a good little bit at the end of introducing it, and there was a nice area to slot it back in. So yeah, you wouldn't even notice it if you were just listening to it. You wouldn't even notice it. That's why I'm the producer and the editor of this show. I'm going to blow my own trumpet here.
Basically, what he's trying to say is I'm not as smooth as I make out.
Smooth criminal, you're Aaron. Right. You might think I'm being a little bit more clean cut on this podcast because my wee one won't go to bed. He's sat right next to me, and I can't have him picking up what I say half the time. Otherwise, my wife will absolutely kill me. So I'm going to try and keep this one a little bit clean from my side. Aaron, probably not so much, though he's already he's already done less than what he said last week after 3 minutes. Like, it took him a couple of minutes and he already started dropping disability jokes in. So, yeah. There we go. Should we crack straight on with the weekend's action? Because do you know what? There was a lot of games where there was a bit of nothing in it, but there was some really important results this weekend in the grand scheme of being able to make the playoffs and a team finding form, teams dropping into the playoffs. Again, another team in the relegation battle, and one team that's down in the relegation battle and one team that's hopeful of making the playoffs. So a lot happened and a lot didn't happen. So should we crack on to the game that we kind of thought would slot in here last minute because we spoke about it last week. We spoke about the form of Rochdale and how this game could potentially be a little bit do or die for their season. They went to Altrincham, beat 3-0.
I think so. On the preview podcast, I marked this as probably like to the eye. I thought this was going to be the game of the round, probably potentially in terms of it was two teams that have like playoff aspirations. But I think it just kind of showed, didn't it? Like obviously it's 3 back-to-back defeats now for Rochdale, and it showed, I think, the areas of quality that Rochdale lack, and that's not down to Jim McNulty, and it's not necessarily down to the players. You know, we can say it every week, but that's down to the lack of probably the funding from the ownership and not getting the players in that they need to compete. But really, you seen a player like Chris Clark on Saturday who just basically just came into his own and was the best player on the pitch. And when you've got proper quality in key areas of the pitch, you're always going to lose the battle no matter how much like grit and determination you have. And we've spoke about Rochdale's grit and determination for weeks, and that's something we'll always give them flowers for. But I think they're beginning to tire now. I think they've kind of lost their impetus, and yeah, I said a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? I said, to me, as a neutral, a positive finish to the season for Rochdale would be top half. and some takeover news. And now I think I'm looking more and more sort of reliable with that take, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible take at all. And I know Rochdale fans will want to be in and about the playoffs, but I do think just a solid end to the season, not finishing in the playoffs, finishing and trying to get into that top half of the table. I think they would see that as an all right season. I know that they wouldn't have took that at the start of the season, same way that we wouldn't have took that as Hartlepool fans.
But the thing is, though, Grant, you say I don't think they would have took it at the start of the season, but what you have to remember with Rochdale is at the start of this season, they knew they were in a bad, a bad place off the field. They had 15, 16 fit players. So it's like there's a part of me that thinks that from speaking to Rochdale fans that I know, a lot of them say that they would take this season because a few of them are expected to be embroiled into a little bit of a relegation scrap because they've only got X amount of players to choose from, and they've had finance problems, they've had injury problems. So I guess there's two sides of the coin in there, really. Like there's a side of obviously your first season in everyone thinks, your first season at National League level, you think, oh yeah, this is going to be a piece of piss. We'll go to Kings Lynn, we'll go to bloody York, and we'll beat everyone 3-0. But then there's the realistic side of it, and you're like, considering the cards we've been dealt, I think most Rochdale fans should be at least content. I wouldn't say happy, but I would definitely say content.
No, I would, I would agree with that take. I think that's a good take on things. I mean, Altrincham was never going to be an easy game for them either, because Altrincham they're still knocking on the door of the automatics.
Yeah.
Oh, we've lost Aaron's camera. We can still hear Aaron, I think.
Hello.
We can still hear you. Yeah, okay, we've just lost your face, Aaron. I don't know why, but we can work through it as long as we can still. Oh, he's back. There we go. He is
sign
back.
of the gods. That it's sign of the gods. Nobody wants to see this ugly mush. That's what it is.
See, Altrincham was never going to be an easy game for them this weekend, though, was it? Because they're knocking on the door of the automatics.
And what worries me about Altrincham a little bit is everyone. They seem to be getting stronger week on week when the rest of the competition for the playoff places, including us, are probably getting weaker and weaker, I guess.
I was going to say the automatics. Why am I saying automatics? There's only one automatic in this league.
I did want to try and brush past that.
I keep forgetting that only one team goes. Oh, I don't forget because I harp on about it every other week about how much I hate the 2 up, 2 down in the playoff system and the final playoffs. So they don't need to go through that eliminator. Apologies.
Yeah. The thing is with Altrincham, I know Gator said I've had sort of an up and down sort of like last couple months, but when I think of proper footballing sides. For me, I think the best footballing sides in this division are Altrincham and Gateshead. So I don't think it's a surprise to see Altrincham do as well as they're doing. But it does worry me a little bit with somebody that expects to sort of be in and around the playoffs, that they seem to be getting stronger when your likes of your Halifaxes, your Oldhams, your Rochdales are getting a bit more inconsistent. And I think the teams that always tend to do well in the playoffs, I don't know whether you agree, Grant, they're the ones that will maybe put a 6-7 game winning streak towards the end of the normal season, and then they carry that momentum on then to the into the playoffs.
Yep. Well, you look at the last 2 seasons for teams that have went up via the playoffs. So you had Hartlepool went up, put through a good run together, and then Grimsby, they done it. So and then Notts County, aren't they?
Yeah,
they just done it. Because they're Notts County, but the 2 seasons before that, it was your 2 teams putting a good run of form through, breaking into the playoffs, and then running through that eliminator, then getting through the playoff final. It can easily happen.
There's always a latecomer.
Yep, definitely. And we've said this a couple of weeks in a row. There's always a latecomer that's going to spoil everyone's party and piss on their parade. So. We'll see if someone does it this season. We spoke about teams that we think will break in, like Oldham. But yeah, it's going to be fun. So, do you see that as Rochdale's season is done now?
I mean, unless the Cape, because the thing is, on paper, Rochdale have got some fantastic footballers that can win them, multiple games on the bounce. But that's the territory I think they're in now. I think they need to, if they're going to push for it, they need to maybe win 3-4 on the spin. I don't know whether they can do that with the size of the squad. But you look on paper, you've got Tyree Sinclair, who I think is on his day is magical. You've got I know he's had his heart problems, but Devante Rodney, you probably say he's too good of a striker to be at this level. George Nether, who has been linked with big moves before his injury. So they've got the quality there, but I just don't think they've got enough strength in depth. Really, I think that's what I'm doing.
I would agree. And did you see a 3-0 defeat coming for them at all this weekend? What did you predict in your predictions?
If I go back to my predictions, I'm actually quite proud of this one. So I said 3-1 to Altrincham.
Oh, and you weren't far off it because Rochdale hit the woodwork.
Yeah, I wasn't too far. Loz said 2-1 to Altrincham, so we need to work out who in terms of the scoring system. I don't really know who's won that one.
Well, you both get the result right on it. So
yeah,
you both should get. I think you should both get a point for that.
Okay, I like that.
You got the outcome of who is going to win right. None of you's got the scoreboard on. If you've got the scoreboard on, then that's more points.
I think I am closer with the score though, considering I predicted 3. So.
Doesn't matter.
I think Grant might need to get off the fence and remove the splinters from his ass.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's both got the score wrong, but he's both got the result right. Speaking of goals and people scoring a lot, Dagenham.
Oh.
Wow. They demolished Oxford. 7-1.
So with this result, I definitely seen a Daggers win. Like Oxford, I think Oxford are sort of brown bread anyway. Before this result, really, I think they were really starting to struggle, and the golf in quality was a bit too much for them. But like, bottom of the league or not, that's got to hurt your pride and hurt your ego a little bit, and it is a little bit unacceptable, really, if we're being a bit black and white with it, innit? Really.
Sorry, Mal, wee one's just shouting random things. This podcast is going to be filled full of baby noise.
I heard you wee one said it was also unacceptable then, to be fair.
It really is. Thing is, if you're an Oxford City fan, you've seen some results that they've had this season. They've had some good ones. They beat Hartlepool away, and they've had some random shock results. But
yeah. To be fair though, up until a couple of weeks ago, anyone could beat Hartlepool away.
It's very true. Until Kevin Phillips came in the door, we were just whipping boys for some people. So just for reminding us about that again.
But yeah, in terms of from a Dagenham perspective, it's clinical, very very clinical day at the office. Like everything they seem to touch seemed to turn into goals, which I know is very cliche, but it did in this this setting. Of course, it did. And then you've got Reese, Josh Reese netting a hat trick, and that now takes him to 10 league goals from midfield, which is quite impressive, really, to get double figures from midfield.
He's a player I've got a hell of a lot of time for, Josh Reese, and it goes back to a Football Manager game. Like, when sometimes you just find a player on Football Manager and you get an affinity to them. He's one of these players that I signed. So I done a Bournemouth game and I took them up to League One, and Josh Reese became my captain. So I had him and I had Owen Bailey, who was at Gateshead, now he's at Doncaster. Were 2 players in my midfield, and I pretty much built my team around them. And you can see from there that he was always he's a player, and I'm not surprised to see him bagging 10 goals this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got the technical ability, and luckily for Dagenham, the Oxford were able to get a first class ticket to see that ability, really. And but yeah, from an Oxford perspective, then Grant, I mean, we have kind of written them off for the last couple of weeks and said it probably is looking like a relegation. But do you think that almost not confirms it? But what worries me with a result like that is it can either go one or two ways. It can either give you a bit of a rocket up the arse and then kick on and respond next game, or with a team that's like proper down on confidence, like I imagine Oxford are, they could just continue to spiral now and really sort of struggle for the last sort of third of the season. Which way do you see it going?
I think it is going to be a struggle for them for the next third of the season. You look at their next run of games, so they've got Southend, then they've got Eastleigh, then they've got Gateshead, then they've got Aldershot, Rochdale, and then Chesterfield. It's not a nice run of games for them. But I don't think there's any nice run of games for Oxford City when they're in the position that they are just now. I think it's a case of trying not to repeat what happened this weekend for them, not have 5, 6, 7 put past you, and try and keep scorelines fairly respectable and not go down without a whimper. I'd love to see them get a couple of wins along the way.
This is what I was going to say. In terms of fan expectation, obviously we can't speak for Oxford fans. If there is any Oxford fans listening, get in touch and tell us. But going about how they got promoted last year, do you think they would have expected such a? I almost think they might have expected a relegation fight, but I don't know whether they would have expected to struggle this much. What is your sort of thoughts on like where they perceive themselves to be?
I think they will have expected to be in a relegation fight this season. I don't think they will have expected it to be rock bottom for the majority of the season. On that one, sorry again, everyone. This is just going to be an interrupting child. That's going to be the episode name, Interrupting Child. Sorry, professionally unprofessional. I don't think they've foreseen themselves being rock bottom for pretty much the entire season. But do they have the infrastructure to compete with some of the teams? We talk about the money that's at this level that probably shouldn't be in this level because there's not really an element of financial fair play. But yeah, I just don't think they have the infrastructure there. Also, there's Oxford. There's another Oxford team that's an established EFL club.
Yes.
It takes a lot away from a smaller club. And I think that's another difficulty that they may find. Will they find their feet in the National League South again? Probably. But is this just a step too far for them at the moment? I think so.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, to be honest. And I know I've touched upon it for weeks now, but I think this year we've really seen the difference between the golfing probably quality of the North and South divisions of the National League and the Premier Division of the National League.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's got a lot to say for itself, really.
Yeah, agreed. Do you know what? You've brought us on to something again perfectly, Aaron, talking about golfing quality and setups of leagues. So last week I set you a little bit of homework, Aaron. And it was to talk, you mentioned about having, that there's an argument here to be had for the National League to be the EFL League 3.
Yeah.
You've had some time to go away and think about it.
I wish I didn't bring this argument into the discussion, really, because I've been tearing my hair out trying to think of ways that it could happen. And my only way, and this isn't feasible also, it's almost like a fantasy booking like people normally do for the wrestling, I'm going to do for the National League.
Right.
I think you would have to completely restructure. You would have to completely restructure the National League and just have one league. So what I'm proposing is you take, currently as things stand, we'll go, what should we go? We'll go. So I'm gonna say a 15-team league, Ran.
Right.
I'm gonna say the top 5 from the North. The top 5 from the South. And the top 5 from the National.
Oh.
I think that is the only way you could do it, really. But then, like you were saying, there's a whole sort of wider discussion on why this segment of this podcast would have been probably easier for us to have a discussion on. Yes, it seems a great idea, and yes, the league wants more exposure, but there's a whole sort of story on why we don't think it would happen. And the big thing is, the leagues being under different sponsorships, like you mentioned last week.
Yeah.
Vanarama taking the National League and the EFL taking League One, League Two, and the Championship. And I think
Yeah.
sponsorship and the money that sponsors are willing to be put into the divisions, that takes a play for it. But yeah, that's the only way I was thinking. Maybe do like a 5 of the best for each division and then put them up against each other. But I know that is one of the shittest ideas that I'd probably come up with. But that's literally the only way I could look at it.
So I've done a bit of thinking on it as well. So I didn't just leave you to do the homework yourself on it. I've not told you that I've done this. So I thought of my model. But it's not just a remodel of the National League. It's a remodel of the entire league structure.
What? So from like Championship downwards?
From Championship downwards is, for me, the only way that you could work this to be in an EFL League 3. And this would upset a hell of a lot of clubs. And probably why it will never get done and won't work. So, here goes. The Championship, League 1, and League 2 all currently have 24 teams in them.
Yes.
I would cut each of those to 20 teams.
Okay.
So you would automatically, if things finished the way that they were just now, you would see dropping out the Championship, Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, and Huddersfield.
Yeah.
All of them straight drop into League 1.
Yeah.
But then you would see other teams. You'd get 12 teams essentially dropping down to form into this League 3. Then you would see only 8 teams essentially from the National League staying in the National League.
Okay.
Overall, it would be crazy because it would be a complete reform.
But I've got questions straight away.
Yeah.
So obviously, what is your barometer of who stays in the National League?
Whoever's the top finishing teams.
So just the top 8. You
essentially it's going to be your top 8, and the rest would need to drop
and then
out of it.
And then what about the teams that have been, so like the teams that would have been promoted from League 2 to League 1 and League 1 to the Championship? Because obviously,
they would end up having to stay put.
Yeah.
To form these new 20-team leagues.
Interesting.
That's the only way that I can see it work, is cutting down the number of teams. So overall, you'd have 80 teams. You'd then have a League 3, which would allow some of probably your top performing bigger teams to come into this League 3 from the National League. But then you would still have a National League forming of the lower teams, where you could maybe look at a different playoff system to come up, where you'd maybe get a relegation playoff coming up into League 3, and it would still allow you to have a National League North and South.
The Scotsman talking about one of the worst ideas I've ever seen in football in a relegation promotion.
I love a relegation promotion playoff.
Oh,
I think they're great.
It's just typical Scottish. I want to be different. I want independence idea, that in it, you know.
Oh, I'm not bringing that argument up in here. God, I'll piss off half of Scotland if I give my opinion on it. God,
I couldn't help. I just had my stick there. That's in my opportunity to just wind the pot a little bit.
I'd annoy the minority who lost the vote if I give my opinion on it. But no, it's the only way I think it could work is cutting down the amount of teams in it and doing it that way. But I still think coming out of the National League, for keeping the format that it is, promotion relegation playoffs the way forward, because there's only 2 down. Whoever finishes third bottom in League 2, put them in the playoffs with everyone from the National League. If they're good enough to stay up, they should stay up, and then you'll still only get 2 teams promoted.
What absolutely fucking terrifies me though about the idea of a promotion relegation playoff in the National League is, from my team Oldham's perspective, you look at our form against the teams in the relegation zone and our form against the teams in the top 7, we'd get beat by like somebody in the bottom 4.
Thing is, this season, if you're looking at it again, as it is, you'd have Colchester entering into this relegation playoff. So you'd sit there having the Cowleys competing against National League teams to retain their League Two status.
Yeah, that's crazy. Get
That'd
Donny.
be absolute test of metal. I think Donny will be all right now. We spoke about the craziness of them dropping into the National League last week, didn't we? I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll be all right. I do think they'll be all right. Do you know what? Actually, we've segued well again. Relegation spots. We've got a team that quite enjoy winding their fans up, Aaron. I'm not going to lie, who have dropped into the relegation fans. They just
actually, before we start on here, I feel like we do need to bring some housekeeping in here because
right.
Just so you know, I don't have any ownership or thing on the National League Look Twitter account. This is all Grant. So Grant is taking the demographic of our Dorking listening podcast listeners and just shredding them to pieces. I think you're hated now universally by all the fan base.
That's fine. Dorking fans can hate me if they want. Do you know what? I don't hate Dorking at all. It's far
I think
from
it was yesterday or the day before you did like 4 tweets on the spin about Dorking. I was like, this guy's obsessed.
Do you know it's funny? Because the reason I do it is because they bite. They just bite on it. And I'm like, come on, let's do it. So, yeah, cheers for the interaction, Dorking fans. I love you very much. But it's good fun. But, yeah, Dorking have dropped into the relegation spots. They lost 3-1 to Halifax, who won their first time in 7 league games, I think it is, for Halifax.
It ended a run of 3 back-to-back defeats as well for them, didn't it?
They've needed a win big time. Poor Luke that we used to present with in here must have been just depressed with football, with how they were going. But yeah, they went away to Dorking and they done things. Dorking done Dorking things, and they get beat. But there was a little bit of a revelation that came out of that game after, because Dorking sacked their first team coach.
Yeah.
Shortly after the match. Now, I just found it really, really weird that they sacked their first team coach. Normally, you'd find a team who's going through that poor form.
Sack the manager.
They sack the manager. But of course, Dorking can't sack the manager because Mark White owns the Dorking club. So it's just weird. Now, I get it with Dorking. He's got them promoted 12 times. Well done. They've came from nothing. Well done. Like, applause to that. But you're in the National League now. Where's the ceiling for Mark White? Is this Mark White's ceiling? I love everything that he's done with the club. I think it's a great club. I don't hate Mark White. I've not got a vendetta against Mark White or Dorking. I'm just trying to raise a question to say, if it was any other club in the country, the fans would be shouting for the manager to be sacked.
One thing I will say about the ceiling and going a little bit off track, but I wonder whether Mark White feels like he'd be comfortable in either this division or the division below, because, like we say, I'm a big fan of him and how honest and open and candid he is in his interviews. But I don't know whether he'd be able to tone that sort of level of professionalism up for that. Like, you know, if he ever got into, like, say, the AFL or the other. Like, I'd love to see how a bunch of amateurs would go about doing, like, AFL regulation and stuff. So I wonder, for his type of personality, whether he's just better suited to, like, National League South and this sort of division. You know,
the thing is, he can't manage in the EFL at the moment. Because to manage in the EFL, you need to have all your coaching badges set, and he doesn't have his coaching badges.
Right, that's interesting.
So he can't do it. So this is his ceiling. The National League currently, unless he goes out and gets all of his coaching badges, is his ceiling.
And he said under no circumstances and under the Kosh podcast I listened to that he didn't want to do his and in his words he was like, I don't want to do them fucking coaching badges. So yeah, to him I don't think that's an option. But you know, I'm considering we do own this baby ship together. I feel like I have got to jump with you a little bit. I do think, and to be fair, it's not just all Dorking fans coming at you. I've seen some Dorking fans also raise similar sort of questions to you now. So we could call you a trailblazer, really, Grant, if that's the way we wanted to go about it. But I do think at some point he's gonna have to have a sit down with himself.
I know. Just sit him down in front of a mirror and be like, right, Mark, what are we gonna do here? Do we appoint someone else? No, Mark. I'm quite happy being the manager of this club.
They should do a club statement saying Mark White has relieved Mark White of his duties, and then the next week he'll just come back in like costume and like makeup and stuff as a completely different identity, you know.
He should have a big pair of glasses with a massive nose and the mustache on it. I mean, Mark White with a K.
But there is a part of me that like still hopes, and you know what? I'm gonna make a bold call here, but I think Dorking will stay up, and I also think Woking will, even though they've had a little bit of good form over the last sort of 5 games, I think they'll end up dropping again, and I think Dorking will just stay up by the skin of the teeth, because we can say what we want about Mark White, but in previous seasons at this level, he's always seemed to pull it out of his ass when he's needed to pull it out of his ass, you know. And I think he'll just about manage to do it now. That's just my prediction.
You see if they do manage to pull out their ass, and then next season the same happens again, are they just going to continually be happy with just being in this league?
I think you just summed it up yourself, didn't you? I think obviously we can't speak for Dorking fans again. If you have your opinions, please get on and tell us what you think. But I think, like you say, 12 promotions, they've come from nothing, they've come from playing in parks. Are they just happy to have, you know, a team knocking about playing against professional teams? Maybe they are. You know what I mean? If I decided I wanted to create a football team and we did what Dorking would do, I'd be happy as Larry to spend the rest of my days in the sunset of that division. You know what I mean?
Yeah, imagine coming down. You're like, oh, great. We've had Wrexham the last couple of seasons. We've had the Cameras there. We've had Notts County. We've got Hartlepool. We've got Oldham. We've got Rochdale. We're playing against clubs. They played against Scunthorpe last season. Ex-Premier League clubs coming down. And they're like, do you know what? We're having a right old jolly here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I've got it completely wrong.
Listen, I think it's a very bold opinion for you to uphold and continue to stir the pot with, but also I don't think it's the wildest opinion I've ever heard. I just think with the specific club model that you're talking about, I think it's because, like you keep saying, Dorking isn't like any other club. So I think they're a lot more, I don't want to say sensitive because I know I have Dorking fans coming for me, but they're a lot more passionate about Mark White than maybe, you know, an Oldham or a Hartlepool would be in getting rid of a David Unsworth or getting rid of a I forgot the name of the manager that you sacked.
John Askey.
That's it. Thank you. I think they're a lot more passionate because it is his project. It is our project, and they're like the one big group, aren't they? Really, and they all fight for each other.
So basically, if you just called every Dorking fan snowflakes,
I mean, no, but I do think some of the Dorking fans that I have seen, obviously they do get rattled a little bit easily, and some of the responses to you, it's almost like they can't handle someone having a different opinion to like themselves on their own football club, and you can't be like that nowadays, you know, like because we are unfortunately we are in a very, very social media heavy world, and the biggest thing about social media is everyone's allowed an opinions. You know what I mean? Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one.
You just might not like theirs, and apparently Dorking fans don't like mine. Can I tell you what we do like though? I really like ad breaks. I love ad breaks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce in our adverts for this week, and we will be back with you in a minute or two. See you soon. I hope you enjoyed that. I loved it. Did you enjoy that, Aaron?
And that is prime example of where to put an ad break in at the right time.
Oh, absolutely perfect before we get killed by a whole fan base.
Yes, exactly.
So, where were we? I think we're still talking results, aren't we? So, oh yeah. So, I am moving on to a game which I didn't really think would be groundbreaking at all, but it's important for one of the two, or for one of the two teams here. We're looking at Eastleigh versus Fylde. So we had Eastleigh 1, Fylde 2. Aaron, if you can start to take that away, I need to see something. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, of course. So look, we've filed, we've spoke now for weeks, about their sort of upturn in form, and it just continues to get better and better, really, for them, doesn't it? They are like on some sort of crazy good unbeaten run at the minute, and yeah, they just turned up, did the job again, and they are. But the thing is, we filed, like I said, like I almost think they have been in a little bit of a false pretense and a false position a little bit this season, because they've got some good, like really good technical footballers there that shouldn't really be in the position that they are in. You look at like Nick Horton, John Yusabe, play, some serious players at this division, that it's hardly a surprise that if they get the tactics right, that I never once thought that Fylde would be in serious trouble, to be fair. And I think they're just proving time and time again that they will be okay now, and they'll kind of just settle into mid-table. I might actually put my neck on the line here. I think potentially right now, I think I'm just looking at the table. So I think, what do I think? I'm good at saying I think without thinking. So Fylde, for me, they could. I'm just gonna say could. They could get a top 12 finish. I think because I think they will continue to improve, and I don't know how long this unbeaten run's going to go for, but I expect it to go on a little bit longer. And obviously, it's a great sort of momentum build. But again, I don't think I'm wholly surprised that they have been able to put this run together, because they've got some really good technical players, and I think that's come into the fore in the last couple of weeks.
Just holding that together, Aaron. I was having a complete mare there.
I said I think about 27 times, but we'll roll with it. It was hard to talk to myself then, but I think I did all right. I think
you did fine. I had my headset on through the full thing. I'm just having an absolute mare on this podcast tonight, but oh well. This is what you get when you're trying to do parenting alone one night, and you have a child going mental, and then you have a dog going mental in the background. So yeah. We roll with it. But yeah, I think it's a huge result. I think it's a huge result for Fylde. They've got they do have a good upturn in form. And do you think we're going to see them you said, do you think we're going to see them climbing through the table?
I said I think they'll get top 12. I think they'll get 12th. I'll put it out there, not top 12. I don't think they'll go on some sort of mad late playoff charge. I don't know whether they've got that in them, but I do maybe think that they'll get somewhere they could get a top half finish.
So I'm just going to look at the fixtures that they've got coming up over the next few games. So
before you do that, can I just touch upon that? And I'm not it is a little bit of a going off track, but Nick Horton for me is someone now for like multiple seasons that I've looked and I thought, surely you can play higher. You know what I mean? Like some of his goals this season, and I know like this might be a little bit of an exclusive, but I know Oldham were interested in him right at the beginning of the summer. But obviously it didn't materialise, and he signed his new contract at Fylde. But it does surprise me, because he does strike me as a player that could comfortably play at a higher level if he chooses to. But what is he now? Is he 29, 28?
He's 29 now.
Yeah,
but he's already been tried at a higher level, hasn't he? He was tried through at Fleetwood, and then he was tried at Salford, loaned out to Chorley, back at Salford, and then he made the move back to Fylde. I think it's a case of we spoke about this briefly last week as well, about just finding your level.
And also, it's not just that, but I feel like again we're probably opening a whole can of worms, but I feel like there's a group of players that we could speak about that are maybe too good for National League level, but not good enough for EFL level. So you're like, you know what I mean? You're kind of stuck in that middle ground, really.
Goes back to League 3, doesn't it?
Yeah, just shove all the players in like an open invitational. But yeah, I've always rated Horton, and I'm not surprised to see him stepping up now when his team needed him. You know.
Yeah, I mean he's got 9. He's got 9 this season after on 30 appearances. You look at his previous seasons; he scored 26 the 2 previous seasons in both 21 and 19 games, respectively. So you know what he's about, don't you?
Yeah.
But he's always going to be a threat. And we've mentioned your predictions a little bit earlier on.
Here we go.
So I'm just going to talk briefly about a little feature that yourself and Lauren brought in on the preview pod. So for those that haven't listened, they're doing a preview I'm going to say competition, or a little preview, a predictions competition or predictions league, and you said it's going to be the most hotly contested part of the preview podcast.
Probably because what's riding on it at the end of the season. So basically, this boils down to the last show me and Lauren will do together of the season. The winner of the podcast gets to see the winner of the predictions league gets to see the loser of the predictions league in the football kit of their team. So obviously, for those that don't know, Lauren is a massive Stockport County fan, and I'm a massive Oldham Athletic fan. And in the past, historically, Oldham fans and Stockport fans are not supposed to get on. So there is a little bit of needle, a little bit of spice to the predictions league. And look, I've had to eat a little bit of humble pie, really, because I was, first week in with a Stockport fan, I was kind of giving it the big, and I was like, yeah, this is my home, this is my territory. I'm the expert. I'll do well in this predictions league. And Lauren's come week 1, and I will remind everyone it is week 1, so I'm not panicking yet because we've got multiple podcasts to do. But she's kind of smashed it out of the park for week 1. Really, I'm lagging a bit behind.
She really did as well. She really did smash it out of the park on it. And Aaron, you're just gonna need to do better, mate.
I mean,
if you're wanting to continue just on the review show as well, I could just replace you with Lauren. Do you know what I mean? If you continue to lose, I'm like, Lauren, you need to come in and do this show with us. So
the thing is, you have to remember, I'm an Oldham fan, so up until this season, I'm used to losing. So it's like it's like I was going to say embedded in me. I don't know if that's the right word.
Embedded. Not,
that's the word.
Yeah, not embedded in you. That's something completely different, Aaron.
Yeah, so I'm just used to seeing people lose, so it's like it's an automatic response. But you know what? Actually, if you want to play that game, so I still stand by, even though you've got splinters in your ass. We've not we have discussed a point structure, but I don't know whether we've got it finalised yet. But so for the Altrincham Rochdale game, I predicted 3-1. Lauren predicted 2-1. Now I think I should take the majority of the points there, considering I got the most goals in that prediction.
I'm bringing the hammer down on this. So if you're doing a predictions league, you get a point if you get the right outcome, so the right result. You get 3 points if you get the right score. And if you get nothing, if you get neither of the 2 right, you get nothing. So you've both got the right result.
Go on then. I'll tell you what we can do for this segment of the podcast, because we've been struggling because my little disabled brain can't comprehend numbers sometimes. So you can be the scorer. You can add up the scores for week 1 for us, so we've got a definite winner here. I know Lauren's won it, but I want to know how many I'm behind.
That's fine.
So we both got Altrincham to beat Rochdale. So according to you, that is what? 1 point.
1 point each.
Okay, so this is where Lauren takes an early advantage because she got 1-0 Boreham Wood bang on, and I said 1-1.
That's 3 points for Lauren there.
So it's 4-1.
What to do? Send me both your predictions over.
Yeah.
And I will score it. And then you can announce what the scoring sat at on the preview podcast.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
So
If Lauren's listening to this, then I think she'll like that as well. But I'll send her a message and say that's how we're going to do it.
And then I'll keep tabs on it each and every week to see who's winning.
All I know for week 1.
So it's your competition between the two of you. I'm being the ref of it.
Yes, and all I know for week 1 is Lauren is leading, but the it's not about it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm gonna work my way in. I'm a bit like Oldham Athletic this season. We started off slow with somebody that didn't really have much tactical nous. I'm not saying I don't have tactical nous, but I will learn and progress on the job. You know, I'm a who can I compare myself to? I'm a little bit like Roberto De Zerbi, you know. I will change it up. I'm a tactical mastermind, and you'll see that in weeks going forward, you know.
But we'll see. We'll see how you get on. But you see, if you're still behind after 4 weeks, I'm going to be ashamed. And you're like, what's this? All this time I've spent with you, Aaron, this last year doing this. So pressure's on, mate. The pressure.
I don't want to lose my job, Grant.
You're fine. You're fine. Just remember to put ad breaks in. Right. One more game that I want to talk about. Our TV game from the Saturday night.
What a corker.
Woking 1, Hartlepool 1. But no, you both predicted a Hartlepool win for that as well, so that's no point.
To be fair, you bunch of bottling, both of us would have got a point for the win if you would have held out, but no, you couldn't even do that, could you?
Do you know what? It was a tough one to watch. I think it was by far a game of two halves. I think we were the better team for the first half of the game. Hartlepool probably should have been. I think we should have been 4 up in the first half. The amount of opportunities that we were creating, we looked better than I've seen us for most of the season in the first half. I thought we were really good. But in the second half, we set out to just sit back. It was like a different team came out. We allowed Woking to come at us, and you could just see a goal coming all game. We had a disallowed goal as well. I don't know what it was disallowed for, whether it was offside or whether the ref didn't think the ball was in the goal when it was a clear foot over the line. It was a weird disallowed goal. But to concede in like the 90th minute or the 92nd minute, it feels like a loss.
Yeah.
I just hated it. And it came out of, again, another defensive mistake. But it was with Joe Gray who scored the goal. He got passed out to him and he tried to pass it forward to Nicky Featherstone in the middle of the park. When if it was an experienced defender, he would have just fucking hoofed it.
I think the biggest takeaway from that for me is, and it's probably a wider discussion, you've seen this year with a lot more late goals, you know, going in, like injury time goals in this division. And I don't know whether that's like a general lapse of concentration or whether it's down to like the referees putting more added time on now, you know. So you used to be able to just stay switched on for like 92, 93 minutes. Now, some games, you have to stay switched on for like 100 plus minutes.
And like, it's crazy.
It's a different level, isn't it, you know? But look, in terms of your overall form since Phillips has come in, it's still very, very good in it. And it's just kind of a bit of a, do you think it's just a bit of a bad day at the office, really? And like, I guess the key question is, going back to our little bet last week, are you still as confident that you're going to catch us and overtake us or what?
Here, we've got a point closer to Oldham. We're only 5 points behind you now. We're closing the gap. That's what I was looking at. I was more annoyed that we didn't win to close it even further. But do you know
I'll tell you what, I'll block you tomorrow if we get beat.
Who have you got tomorrow?
Boreham Wood at home.
Oh, that should be a good game. Boreham Wood coming off at the back of a 1-0 win as well against Maidenhead.
And also, let's not forget that we're not typically the same team at home for some reason.
No, you're a strange team. Very, very strange team at home.
So it'll be interesting, yeah, for sure.
Well, there's a few other good games that we've got coming up on Tuesday as well. So we've got Aldershot v File. We don't have Alty v Wealdstone. That's a postponed game. Halifax will be looking to build off the back of their win against Dorking, coming in against Maidenhead. Yourselves against Boreham Wood. Solihull Moors are coming up against Kidderminster, who are still in a good run of form since Phil Brown came in. Solihull Moors also, they look great with Shade that they've got on loan from Swindon. So I've seen Solihull Moors fans going, why have Swindon given us Shade? He's absolutely ran the show for Solihull. And yeah, if he keeps that up, they've got an absolute player there in Shade.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you said about what's his name? The guy that got the hat trick for Dagenham, Reese.
Reese,
being your FM player. Tyree Shade is mine. Him and Troy Parrott, they're the two that I always tend to go for. Really.
I've spent so many years the last 2 years on lower league. Look, just slagging off Tyrese Shade because he's been generally a bit crap for Swindon. But again, we could just be finding a player here who's really found his level.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And sometimes all it takes is like a team to fit a player as well, and just show them that bit of TLC and that bit of confidence to go out and do what they want to do and take risks, and just someone having a bit of belief in the player every once in a while can help, can't it?
Exactly, and giving him the game time that he wants and he needs, you could see a real upturn in form, and you might see him either signing on in the summer for Solihull. They might decide to put a bid in and try and keep him permanently before the end of the season's done, because we can still sign players in this league until March. Or you might see him get another move to the National League or a lower side EFL club come in, because I think his contract's up at the end of the year. So he's definitely going to be someone to watch for the next few weeks and coming at the end of the season to see how he does for Solihull. And they've needed someone to give them that bit of an extra boost. And the final game that's coming up on Tuesday is York City against our favourites, Dorking.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, I don't know, is it a must-win for Dorking? Are we at? That's the other question. Do you think we're at we're sort of middle of February now? Are we at like a place where we can start using the phrase "must-win" for games, or is it still a bit early?
I think we can definitely use must win now, and Dorking still have a game in hand on the teams below them, and they've got 2 games in hand on the teams below them. They're kind of the same sort of games as the teams that are above them, and because it's so tight from 21st, in fact 23rd up to 14th. If they get a run, they could do all right. But yeah, it's against York, who are down there as well. They're on 35 points. Dorking are on 34 points. They're both in the same amount of games. If they beat them, they're pulling York back down into it. But if they lose, York are away. It's 6 points. What you would define as a 6-pointer. So it's a huge game for both teams. I wouldn't say it's a must-win. I'd say it's a need to win.
Considering we're only doing predictions for Saturday on our podcast this week, I will give you a prediction for that game. Right. I'm gonna go 2-1 Dorking win.
Oh, there we go. You heard it now. Now, you've mentioned again about the previews. Now, I don't want to piss in your parade with the previews, but there's one game in particular I do kind of want to talk about for next week. And I feel like I can't not talk about it. There's a huge game at the top of the table. And could this potentially be must-win? You've got Bromley v Chesterfield at the weekend. I mean, it's not must-win for Chesterfield because they've as good as won the league. But I just think it's a huge game because Bromley have Barnet chasing them down. They are hot on their neck.
And Bromley are in really, really poor form.
They're in poor form. And if Chesterfield win it, just making an even bigger gap at the top of the league.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I'm quite good friends with the lads that do the Bees pod, the Barnet podcast. I've been speaking to them over the last couple of weeks, and they're extremely confident of securing second.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like with some of the signings that Barnet have made, and they'll have the momentum as well with the sort of the progression in the trophy as well. And I think a good run in whatever competition that is, whatever guys that is, can always help a team. And I don't know. I feel like Bromley needs to sort it out fast. But we're big fans of Bromley and Andy Woodman on this podcast, and we've interviewed him in the past, and I think it'll be an interesting one. It'll be an interesting one because I think if Bromley do lose this one, and say they lose it quite comfortably as well, you'll wonder if that will do some sort of psychological warfare damage for them going forward.
What do you think the way forward is for Bromley if they don't go up this season?
That's a good question.
Will they feel that there's a need to roll the dice and change manager? Or do you think they'll go, nah, we're not going to get much better than Andy Woodman here?
The thing is, I don't know whether we're being extremely biased, but like from the way Andy Woodman spoke about football to us, the geezer knows what he's talking about. And I think he knows what needs to happen as well. So it's like it would be a roll of the dice because you could try it and then you get 6 games in and you then like shit, we actually can't get any better than what we've got. So do you just trust the man that's kind of brought you little bits of success in the past? And
exactly. I mean, he's got them into the playoffs, and if he keeps them in this top 2, your advanced playoffs positions, it's one of the best finishes, with the best league finish they've had. I think it would be hard to make a move on him, but they've got to get further than they've got in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
It's a tough one to say, but it's a huge game this season. I think if Chesterfield win it, it's game over. That is the league for me. If they win this weekend, that is it. The league is done. I know it's done anyway, but I know it will be done. That is done if that's the case. So, yeah, Chesterfield, see you later. Enjoy League 2.
See you next summer, Chesterfield. We'll be dancing on your pitch again.
Is there anything else you're wanting to cover tonight, mate, before we wrap this up?
So we've done. I think I've done a very poor job of a league structure there, but I always thought that assignment was going to be hard. But I'm happy. I think obviously it's a big night tomorrow night in terms of playoff places as well, and a big night for my boys. I just hope we kind of, because we are in a bit of a mini rut, and I say mini rut because it has only been 2 games, but it's like a second game turns into a third, and then you start to lose a bit of confidence, So it's a big night for us tomorrow, but I'm sure we can do the business.
We'll see what happens. So enjoy the games tomorrow. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast this weekend. Today, whenever you might be listening to this one, don't forget to listen to all of our other podcasts that we have. We have our League 1 and League 2 podcasts. Give our preview podcasts a bit of love when they come out on Fridays at 10 p.m. And don't forget, we've got the breakdown on Thursdays live on YouTube, and the 606 for League 2 on Twitter on Sundays. Everyone, thank you very much for listening once again. We've been the Lower League Log.
See you next week.